Hey everybody, this is Coach Ali. I'm here with one of my old coaches, Maurice Boylan. Mo coached me when I was in high school. He's one of my all-time favorite coaches. He's been coaching for over 50 years. So today what we're going to talk about is tryouts. Tryouts are super stressful for players. We know this. As coaches now, we're on the other side of it, the ones evaluating the players. So the goal of today is to listen to Mo and I talk a little bit about how we do tryouts, what we look for, and hopefully you can pick up some tips that'll help you be ready for your tryouts and kind of know what to expect. Now, as we go, just keep in mind that all coaches are different. Mo and I tend to, I think a little similarly. So this doesn't mean this is what all coaches think, but it's always good to get some good feedback and hopefully you pick up some things that will help you. So, Mo, thanks for joining me today.
No problem, Mal. I don't know how to feel about you saying the old coach thing, but I did like the favorite coach, or more experienced coach. I'm okay with that. I don't feel old yet, Al.
No, you're not old, Mo. You're
I
just
don't I don't
you're
feel
just
old.
one of my past coaches. How about
I'm,
that?
that's awesome. Yeah, I still got the same passion, same enthusiasm. It's crazy. So I'm all in soccer wise, as you know.
I know,
And
I know.
that's
I thought you'd be the perfect one to talk to, and you just finished your tryouts with your Delaney High School for your spring season.
we did.
And I know a lot of players are about to go into some club tryouts, so this is a great time for us to talk about this topic. So I thought we'd kind of start talking about what we look for in players before we even get to the field. I know, at least for me, like I know what I'm looking for. I can see it pretty quickly once I get the tryouts. Honestly, I don't tryouts for me usually take 2-3 days tops. And I can pick them out pretty quick. Just because I've been doing it for a while and I know what I'm looking for. So, but I'll let you start. You tell me before you even get to tryouts, what do you have on the brain? What are you looking for?
Well, I'll start with Delaney first, or how I would coach or handle my tryouts for high school. As far as high school goes, and Delaney, as we're speaking of, um, I make sure I prepare myself with the knowledge of all the players that are coming into Delaney. So I want to know the girls that are coming from Ridgely Middle School, Cockeysville Middle School, Carroll Manor, whatever schools are in my district. I like to know as much about them as I possibly can. I like to usually talk to those coaches of those middle schools.
So
To
those girls are coming to your tryouts thinking that you're seeing them for the first time, but little do they know you've already done some vetting.
I am well prepared. I speak to the coaches. I get a feel for um, what position they play, their favorite position at least, or how versatile they are, what type of work rate they have, what type of impact they make on their team.
Mhm.
I also want to know what type of skill level they're at. I also want to know if they're playing club soccer. So I want to know if they have that commitment to soccer.
Is that
Um,
a deal breaker for you?
it's not. It's not even some of my better teams that I've coached in the past in high school, as you know, weren't solely based upon the talent, the soccer talent that came to school. A lot of times I'd have great lacrosse players, swimmers, basketball players, whatever. I love those high level, other sport, multi sport players that are competitive and driven. And in many, many ways, that's been my success over the many years of coaching high school. It's not all about that terrific soccer club player. It's
So
just
what
not.
about those girls that maybe didn't play for middle school or they came from a school that you weren't in touch with? What about them? Do they have a fair shake when they get the tryouts?
Absolutely. I mean, I have no preconceived notion of who's going to make the team, because I also have to evaluate my JV team. I have to know the same thing about those girls as I know about the incoming girls. And I need to make sure that I understand where they fall in the pecking order from the JV coach. The same thing, skill level, fitness level.
Because
Temper.
you're not just thinking about that year. You're thinking about the future too.
Oh, there's no question about it.
Hmm.
No question about it. So, I just want to get a feel for the JV team and know what players could possibly help the varsity the next year. And then really, I not only back to the middle school girls, I actually have them somewhat rated, approximately where I think they fit in some type of pecking order to go along with their commitment to soccer, their skill level, and the impact they play. And the same thing goes for the JV team. How good of a player were they on the JV team, and all those different things we talked about.
Okay. So I think I'll back it up on a different level. For me, not getting into some of the stuff that you talked about, but when my players come into tryouts, I don't like the one thing for me is I don't look at them as whatever position they've already played. I really like to see how they think when they play. I really like to see what their skill is like when they play. And for me, what I expect from my outside backs or my center backs or my center mids or my outside mids, it might not be whatever their travel or club coach has been asking from them. And so I've had players that play forward on their team. When I see them, I'm like outside defender, or they've been playing center mid, but I'm like, good center back. So when I go into tryouts, I'm really just trying to see how players think, how their touch is, how their distribution is. Do they have the kind of mentality where they like to sit back and play make? Do they like to attack and go forward? And make themselves dangerous? Because I think, you know, at this age, even though players kind of get into this like I'm a forward or I played outside mid my whole life and they have an idea of where they've played, I don't think that is necessarily set in stone or is what's going to be best for the team and how you kind of fit all those puzzle pieces together on the field to make the best team. So to what you were saying, I go in with a super open mind. And no matter what position somebody's playing in tryouts, doesn't necessarily mean if they make the team, that's where they would play for me. Which is always an interesting conversation when you get to that point with them.
I totally agree about the position thing, and I've probably had multiple conversations uh, with my Delaney team about that because some of them are forwards or backline players for their club team, but we talk about need and where do you fit in best for our team. And
Hmm.
I also coach at Pipeline Soccer Club as well, and I also talk to my players there about the same thing. Even though you're playing forward here, when you get to high school, you may be a whole different ball game where you play. So
Hmm.
you need to be. I love versatile players that can move around and play different positions. I've told my players before, like when they come to high school, they go, "Well, I'm an outside left back." And I go, "Do you play anywhere else?" And she might say no. And I go, "Well, that's unfortunate because my outside left back last year was a freshman, and she was an All-American. Where does that leave that kid?
Uh-huh.
But as far as
That
having an
doesn't
open
really
mind,
deter me though. I get players like that will say that to me, like this is my position, and I just giggle to myself, like,
right, which
your
is about
position is gonna be wherever I put you.
totally agree, which was about right where I was about to go. Um, I like the kid that would go, okay, that's cool. Look, I like kids with heart,
Yeah.
you know. I can't make a kid want it, you
Hmm.
know. So a kid that has that type of desire, that type of drive, that's the kind of kid I want. I want that kid to stand up to that freshman All-American and go, you know what? I got this.
Hmm.
And if it doesn't work out there, then maybe she's versatile enough to play somewhere else on the field. And we'll figure it out if she's a good enough player. But drive, competitive spirit, and heart, those are all things I'm looking for in a player when I
And
get them.
and those players, like sometimes I get those players, I'm like, we need an outside back, and I'll get, oh, Coach Ali, I'll try it out. The ones that are willing to
I
even
love
try a
that.
new position.
I
When
love it.
I can't tell you how many times I put somebody in a position and they have just completely owned it. And it's so clearly an awesome position for them on the field. And it transforms their game because, whether a player likes to play forward or prefers defense or whatever, all players, in my opinion, have like a disposition for a certain position. You have to have, as a forward, you have to have a disposition that is like, I have a nose for the goal. I'm going to turn and shoot. I'm going to bury it in the back of the net. You kind of have a more kind of hardcore view when you get the ball about making yourself dangerous. And not all players are like that, you know. And then you have your defensive players are like calmer. You need that. You don't want that forward personality in the back line because they're too risky. You need someone who's calmer, who can settle the game, who can just make smart plays forward. So you get these different kind of personalities. And I get like that kids, they really love a certain position, but I can't tell you how many times I put a kid in a new position and they went from being a good player on the field to a phenomenal player on the field. It totally transforms their game. And if they just be open to it, I coached one player who her whole life she played forward and outside mid, never played a lick of defense. I put her on outside back because I said, listen, I want to get more attack coming out of the outside back. She was big, she was strong, but she had all the skills of an attacking player. She started 4 years in college at outside back because she was a mediocre outside mid, phenomenal outside back.
Yep. I get it, because probably potentially at my high school I'm at now, I could have at least 2 players in my starting lineup that I know for their club team that they play totally different positions. One might be a center midfielder. She's playing on my back line and she's awesome. I have another kid who's a killer center back for a high level club team. Well, she's one of my forwards, you know, or maybe sometimes I might play her out on a flank. So it's all about need. It's also about style of play. You know,
Yeah.
we play a 3-5-2 is what we like to play, which is an attacking style of play. So it's all going to depend on those outside runs from those backs. Do you want them to make that? Or do you want them to be a killer compact group? It's all about style of play too. So we like outside. We like all of our backline players to be able to possess the ball and to knock it around and play balls equally as short and build it out of the back as much as we like them to be able to drive balls, clear balls, change the point of attack, or just get balls up and out, you know, bombs away, so to speak.
You know, to that point, to what you're saying there, I think that's really, really, really important for players to know about tryouts. And not all coaches do this, but when I have tryouts, I say, okay, listen, this is what I want to see from my defenders. This is what I want to see from my midfielders. This is what I want to see from my forwards. And I take players through it. And then I put them out on the field. And then I expect them to kind of try to show me what I'm seeing. I had one player who played center back. He was probably one of the best players at tryouts. And I ended up cutting him this year because even though I said 3 times, I don't want to see center backs dribbling forward. Your job is to distribute forward and keep the ball. It's too dangerous to dribble from that position. He kept doing it because I guess he was trying to show off a little bit. And he got the ball stripped from him. And even though I told him 3 separate times during tryouts what I expected from positions, he wasn't listening to me. And then I ended up cutting him because I didn't think he was coachable. You know, so to your point, I think it's really important to understand what that coach is looking for. Because some coaches, to be honest with you, they like a defender that can just nail a ball forward every time.
But
You know,
that's their
that kind of
style.
like kick and run direct game. Some
Maybe that's how
coaches
they like
love
to
that.
play it.
I'm not a big fan myself. I want my defenders to possess the ball.
Totally.
But if you play possession for me and then you go try out for a high school team where that coach likes that long ball and you never play it, he's going to think you can't play that ball and you're not going to make the team. So, I mean, you have to understand what your coach is looking for and then try to be able to show that the best that you can in the position you play at tryout, which can be another problem. You split kids up into these teams and then there's somebody else on their team in the scrimmage that plays their position and then they get pushed out of position and they spend the entire tryout playing in a place that they're not used to, feeling uncomfortable, not being able to show what they do. So hey, when you go to tryouts, you have to stand up for yourself. And it's okay to go out of position a little bit, you know, but if you feel comfortable in a certain spot, you got to tell the people you're playing with, like, hey, let's switch now. I need my time back there so I can show what I can do.
Well, that's why I like to go to some of these. I mean, I like to try to go to some of these middle school games too, to just kind of put my own spin or my own opinion on where I think a kid may play. They may have a kid playing up top, but she's clearly a center back or whatever the case might be, but it's all about need. So, I mean, I try to go check them out that way as well.
So you're watching. You could be watching them at any time. If you're listening to this and you're trying out for girls Delaney soccer, you better watch out.
No question.
I was watching you. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about was players get really nervous. And I think some players spend a lot of time preparing for that infamous fitness test at the beginning of tryouts. I always do a quick fitness test at the beginning of all my tryouts. And I'll let you talk about this, but I'll first say, like, let me tell you something. There's only one reason that I do it. I just do it because if you are super out of shape, there's no way you're making my team. If you are coming in the back and walking at the end, or you're so far behind the middle of the pack, like, you're just not prepared and you're out of shape. And how can you expect to play soccer, which is a running game, a lot of running in it, when you're out of shape? And then of course I like to see who comes in the beginning because they're obviously very prepared. But really what I'm looking for is those stragglers. And at the end of tryouts, it gives you an easy explanation. You can always just refer back to the fitness test.
Yeah,
So,
I think that you can check out a young lady's fitness just by doing different things. I mean, for me, I used to do a time mile or a time 2 mile or the beep test, and I really held on to those things as true evaluations of their fitness level. I think you can run a 300, which would be, a full field back and forth and then to midfield and back, or you can do around the track couple times of Indian runs, the Brazilian runs, or some reasonable facsimile of that, or a progression run, and just kind of check them out fitness wise there. And I like to do a lot of fitness with the ball as well. I really rely on that. I'm not much of a getting down and running a lot of suicides and really kind of checking fitness out that way. But there's many ways you can check out fitness, and it doesn't have to always be by the time mile. But I think you can, like you called them stragglers. I think you can see who's straggling, who's struggling to keep up with the group, and you got to come ready to play 90 minutes when you come to tryouts. I mean, you should be fit and ready to go. You should be playing as much as you can possibly play prior to tryouts. And
I mean, it's also a sign to the coach of, like, how important is it to you? Because that those players that really want to make the team, they're training in the summer, they're getting in shape, they want to do well when they get the tryouts. And
that's
you get
huge.
those people that just walk up, they've been on the couch all summer, they haven't done anything, and it's clear that they're not prepared. And how bad could they possibly want to play on the team when they're that unprepared?
Yeah, you get more of that at high school than you do in club soccer. Club soccer, for the most part, people are ready to go, for the most part. But in high school, I mean, I'll be honest, I've had some people that hadn't touched the ball since our season ended in 2019. And so for a year and a half, they haven't played any soccer. They don't play rec soccer. They don't play club soccer. They haven't gone to any camps. They don't do anything on their own, but yet they come out to tryouts thinking they're going to make the team, or they think, it's strange to me that they would think that. But
And to your point, the difference between club and high school, when I run my club tryouts, I don't do any fitness tests. I just get right into it. I just want to see their skills. I do a little skill work, and then I do a ton of scrimmaging. I want to see how they fit in with my team. I want to see what they can do. And the to your point, the club tryouts, I don't think it's as necessary to run a fitness test, because most of those players are already coming in from another team, or they've been playing, or they're in a reasonable level of fitness as it is.
yeah, I can say that I don't necessarily focus so much on fitness with my club tryouts either. I mean, we do some things that I can at least gauge, in what type of commitment they've made to soccer. But we play a lot of 1v1, 2v2, all the way up and through full sided for club. I want to see, how comfortable they are with the ball at their foot. Or I do want to see how much heart they have and how they compete. We try to make a competitive cauldron for the girls to compete in. So that's really what I'm looking for, not so much the fitness part of it. You know, can they possess the ball? Can they knock the ball around? That's the kind of club player we're looking for. We don't really so much worry about try our fitness at tryouts either, but we do some things.
Yeah, and I think with all that playing and trying to see their touch and everything, one of the things that really gets players at tryouts is making mistakes at tryouts. So I think there's some big mistakes that players make that I want to get into in a second, but I'll just talk about those basic mistakes like you mistrap the ball or you mispass the ball. I tell my players in every tryout I've ever conducted, I say, listen, I I played on the US national team. I can tell the difference between you taking a touch, mistouching the ball because you can't handle the ball, and mistouching the ball just because you made a mistake, which everybody does. Maybe the ball takes a bad bounce, or maybe your feet just weren't in the right position, or whatever, but every single person at tryouts is going to make a mistake. So or they're going to make several mistakes, really. So if when you make a mistake, you feel like all eyes are on you and you're like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, this is the end of the world. Like, I think that is a big mistake that people make when they come to tryouts. You have to go into it knowing I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make up for my mistakes with hard work. And I'm going to trust that the coach is going to be able to see what I'm able to do. So
You got to have a short memory with that. And I mean, you're going to make mistakes if you're working hard and trying hard. And I like risk takers. So I don't mind people taking players on. But what I do want to see, if they lose the ball, I want to see them immediately get the ball back. Or do they
but a lot of players won't do that at tryouts because they shut down. They get so in their head about, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, the coach saw me. They just stop. And maybe they wouldn't normally do that in a real game, but at tryouts, I think that's a big mistake that people make.
It's a huge mistake because that's something that stands out.
Mm-hmm.
So that I wouldn't be looking to sign that player if they did it the whole entire tryout. You know, I would have a talk with them, in my opinion, about those mistakes and how I want them to win the ball back and how they shouldn't worry about mistakes. You know, just like you said, I can tell who's a good player with a good touch and, that just made a mistake, or someone else who's just not confident with the ball at their foot and they're going to make constant mistakes. I know there's a total difference, as you say.
Yeah, and it's not hard to tell the difference.
It's not.
No, I agree with that. So
I
what
can
do you
tell
think
in 5 minutes a lot of times what kind of touch a kid has. Just a couple 1-2 touches or whatever, just passing it back and forth, how they carry themselves, how they present themselves. I mean, you can tell that about a soccer player.
Yeah, I agree. It's not hard to, especially if you've been doing it for a while, it's not hard to pick up on that stuff.
Totally agree.
What do you think about other just kind of mistakes that people make in tryouts? Not actual mistakes like passing and touch and that sort of thing, but for example, I think one mistake that players make when they come in is just being super quiet. Like maybe they're nervous, they don't talk to anybody. I mean, it's different for everybody, but I think that you can help get yourself out of your head just by talking. Even if you can't muster up a lot, you can muster up a like here down the line or wide or man on. Like even if you're just saying simple things that will help get you out of your head. But I see players that will just get super quiet. They just kind of go internal inside their mind, and then for the entire time we're playing, they're just like a ghost on the field.
I like all my players to be leaders. I like my players to speak up when we're playing. I'm big on communication. So verbal, visual is huge. And just to be honest, just when I call out roll and I call your name, if I say, Ali Andrzejewski, and you go, here, or whatever the case might be, right? I go, excuse me? Or so I'm hoping that they come out of their shell a little bit as time goes on. Maybe they are a shy person. But the other thing is, don't come late. Don't come late. Don't come late to tryouts. Don't come late to whether it's club or high school.
When do you think players should be there?
Easily 15 minutes before.
Okay.
I'd say 30 minutes just to kind of get your mind right, maybe get a little jogging in, maybe get yourself ready to go, because you really don't know what the coach is going to do. You don't know if he's going to run sprints to start out with, or if you're going to get right into playing. So I
And
think,
to that point, what you just said, what happens a lot of times, even if you did get there 15 minutes early, you get there, you put your shoes on, you talk to your friends for a minute, you pass the ball for a couple minutes before you know it's time to start. And you know what you haven't done yet? Gone to the bathroom, right? So like if you get there 30 minutes early, I mean, I'm just gonna say it because it's true for me. I think it's true for most people. Once you start moving around a little bit, you're like, okay, now I have to go to the bathroom, even if you didn't have to go to the bathroom before,
isn't it irritating? I swear, you'll get there and they've been there for 30 minutes or whatever the case might be, even with my club team. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes before the game, coach, can I go to bathroom? Really?
It never fails. You know what I make my players do now? If I have if practice starts and then you have to go to the bathroom, I make the whole team do a plank hold while we wait for them to go to the bathroom and come back.
I like that.
The rest of the team has to do a plank.
I can't say that I've had them do that, but yeah, that's a little on the irritating side, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So so the last thing that I just want to get into before we say goodbye to everybody is any last tidbits of advice you have for players coming into tryouts?
Wear something the coach will recognize.
Ooh, that's a good one.
2 different color socks, pink socks, red socks, because
I disagree, Mo. Do not show up to my tryouts in 2 different color socks. I think that is wonky looking.
I know that's old school, but all I'm saying,
I like them to be like very well dressed. And if you come in like my someone gave me this tip and I just thought it was the best tip ever. You want to come looking the part, right? You come in like some random t-shirt and God forbid you come in a lacrosse t-shirt, and I don't want to like offend all those lacrosse people out there, but us soccer lovers, we like soccer lovers. We like kids who like soccer, wear it. I know you have a soccer t-shirt. Okay. Wear something soccer, look the part.
But that's good.
Matching socks, like look like you're ready to play.
Yep. You can say, hey, check out that kid with the Delco t-shirt on, right? Or check out that kid with the red socks, or if somebody has a red stripe on their shorts. Because when you come to tryouts, you only know a certain amount of people. You don't know everybody.
Yeah.
So if you can just get that little bit more of attention from a coach just by something you have on, rather, even if it's a red pony in your hair or whatever, that way, because I might not know your name is Al, I'll go, but check out that girl with the long blonde hair and the pink pony. I think that helps a coach, when he's evaluating players.
I like that colorful point you make. Like if a player, like I would like my players to look the part, but if you're wearing like royal blue shorts, royal blue socks, or red on red, or whatever get up you're wearing, and it's not like white or black or navy, for a coach, I can't tell you how many times I'm on the field and I'm like, where is that player I wanted to watch a little bit more? And you'll spend a few minutes just looking for them out there.
Exactly right.
But if you're like, that player's got those that blue on, you're like, oh, there he is.
Totally agree. So, I mean, that's the only advice I got. Just come fit, come ready to play, work hard, speak up, communicate, be on time, look the part. Just work hard. I love hard workers. I like to outwork teams. I mean, we talk about a game, first 10 minutes of the game, we're just going to outwork them. It may not be pretty. It may just be a battle. Okay. But we're going to let them know we've come to play. We're going to be sorting them out as time goes by of the first couple of minutes of the game, figuring out how fast your girl is, what style of play they have. What type of formation do they play? Stuff like that. The first 10 minutes doesn't have to be pretty. So
I think that I've taken every tryout I have ever had. I could probably pick at least one person who made the team off of work ethic in front of a player who was probably better than them.
I totally agree. It happens more times than you think.
Often, very often.
You can be as pretty as you want on the ball, but if you're not a tough-minded, competitive kid, varsity's not for you.
No, and I think it makes that, for a coach, it makes that player appear less coachable. because they seem like they're less willing to work and less willing to put the effort in.
But
I've taken players that are a little bit more raw that I know are willing to work for it, that I can teach, and they become fantastic players on the team. And those better players, you know, even sometimes against my better judgment, I know a player is just probably one of the best players at tryouts, and I suspect that their attitude is not my favorite, but I'm going to bring them on because they're very talented. And I will say I can think of at least 2 or 3 times that has shot me in the foot. And I really look for the attitude of the player. So I would advise players when you come to be coachable, listen, don't be arrogant, don't think you have it in the bag, and be respectful of the other people and your coach, and that all speaks volumes, because I've been burned a few times taking those really good players, and I'll tell you what, it's a nightmare to have to deal with them all season, because they just think that they don't listen to anything. They're not willing to adapt their game or work with other people just because they think they're so awesome that they don't need advice or they don't need to listen. So I think that coaches will see that early on in the tryouts if you come out arrogant like that. And we don't really have to get into this, Mo, but I know you know a player that did that.
I agree. And I also think another consideration is how involved are the parents? Are they in the stands? Are they dropping the kid off at tryouts, or are they on the sideline barking at their kid, or are they in the stands barking at their kid? If they appear to be an over-involved parent, that doesn't help either.
No, I've had parents come and actually sit
Yep.
next to me while I'm evaluating, or stand within feet of me. And sometimes I'll bring a second, often I'll have a second person sitting with me, and we're talking about the players and sharing our observations while we're watching. And I know this person can hear us. It's awkward. And if I know who that parent belongs to, I really try not to hold it against the kid, because it's
Right.
not their fault that their parents hovering. But I would be lying if we all have this. Even if we try not to let things affect our judgment, you have a little bit of bias that you just can't help. And when I see parents that hover like that, it is a huge turn off as a coach.
Parents
Especially at an
part
age where
of
kids are supposed to be like taking ownership of their experience, and you want to see the kids stand on their own 2 feet and not have, mom and dad holding their hand from the side. That has nothing to do with not, supporting your kids. It has to do with like allowing your kids to fend, be out there. They can fend for themselves. They're gonna be fine, you know.
right. I'm just not a fan of the intrusive, overbearing parent. It's just
And there's like, however many kids you get at tryouts, 40, 60 kids at tryouts, and there's only going to be 3 or 4 parents standing there, So to the parents that are watching, if you look around and you don't see all 40 parents standing out there with you, maybe you need to back off a little bit.
if you're hollering instruction to your kid and telling her to work harder and take players on and go to goal, those are all things you should not be saying. You can make
No.
notes and hand them to your daughter after when you're on your ride home.
And a lot of times what happens when those parents are there, I've seen on water breaks, you break for water, and the kid runs over to their parent and
Yep.
they're like talking, like, here's what you got to do, da, 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 da,
Yep.
instead of staying with the team and the group and listening to the coach.
It's just
Because
about
I want
people.
the kids to listen to me. I want the kids to stick together as a team. At water breaks, you can't be running over to your parents on the sideline.
Yeah, but that same parent is, while the game's going on, close to the sideline and telling that girl to do everything that she needs to do while the game is being played so she can play well. And I just don't like that. I'm not a big fan of parent coaching on the sidelines. I actually even have a contract with both my club team and my high school team that parent and player has to sign. No coaching from sidelines.
Too many
Simple.
voices.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm trying to get a kid's attention on the far flank, but her parents over there, in her ear about this, that, or the other. I'm
Even
trying to get her attention, or he tells her something totally different than what I'm saying.
Yeah, and to some parents' credit that played the game or they know the
Yeah,
game, even if you do know the game, even if you have good feedback to give, you know, the coach might be asking for something different, playing the
Absolutely.
formation a little bit differently than what you thought, how you played it when you played, or you never know if your messaging is the same as the coach's messaging. So it's not worth crossing lines and ultimately putting your child in a position where they're doing the wrong thing in the coach's eyes, which will affect their playing time and their position on the team.
Totally agree. I don't know what else to say, Al.
So any more advice for anybody before we say goodbye?
Al, I got a brain cramp on that right now, but I'm sure after we sign off, I'll think of 20 things. I love hardworking kids with heart who are competitive. They don't have to be a great soccer player when I get them. Myself and my staff will make them better soccer players. And
Uh-huh.
that's what our goal is, to teach them to play the way we want to play,
Okay.
to improve their play. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today, Mo.
it's all good, Al. It's always a
um,
pleasure.
Good luck, everybody who's going out to try out for a team. I hope that listening to me and Mo talk back and forth a little bit about what we look for in tryouts might help you prepare. And just remember, everybody's going to make mistakes. Okay, you just got to go out there, you do the best that you can. And coaches love hard workers. One of my national team coaches told me that what she looks for is not the mistake, but the reaction to the mistake. Okay, so you get back in there, you keep working hard, and let the chips fall where they may, and you're going to be just fine. All right.
I agree. Don't forget to change the time on your clock behind you.
Thanks, Mo.
No problem. Al, I'm sure we'll talk again soon. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and certainly was an honor coaching you. You are a feather in Coach Mo's cap.
Oh, thanks, Mo.
I
You're the
love you, Al.
best.